You've got the Blues and Arts Hour on 103.9 WYAB, brought to you by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi and Small Town Music.
See your face up on the wall.
The story of the Juvenators is more than just the story of a band. More symbolically, it's the story of a city and a time when cultures didn't collide, they collaborated. Just the name Juvenators has energy and sounds of youth, power, and amplification. Today, you'll meet three people who were either heavily involved in the first iteration of the band or who had connection to it, but who are all invested in bringing the new iteration to life, and also the story of a South Mississippi festival that is itself in revival and will play host to the group's next venture. Today, the story of regeneration and the Re-Juvenators. We got George Vance, we got Chris Derrick, and who is Travis? What's your last name?
My last name's Travis Brawley.
Brawley, and you're the son of Virgil, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so which one of you guys wants to give me a kind of a rundown on the history of the Juvenators, the band that brought so much joy to people in central Mississippi and all over this part of the state?
Well, I'll attempt it, but of course, Mike could use some input from you two guys. So,
you bet.
Yeah. So, the Juvenators actually we formed after I met Virgil in 1996 down on Ferris Street in Jackson at a blues jam, and at the end of that year, he asked me to come play a Halloween gig, which I did, and in turn I met Guy Wade and Bird Lovell, our guitar player, and so after that gig, we all decided to put the Juvenators together, and they told me if that it was on the condition that I joined the band, and said if I didn't, they were going to send some guys in a big van or something over to my house, or something to that effect. But anyway, so in '97 we started up the Juvenators.
And the Juvenators, you know, it's kind of a would it be fair to say it's a fusion kind of a band? I mean, just a mixture of different kind of musical styles.
Well, probably I mean, the slogan of the band was always, you know, on T-shirts and stuff like that, was the blues, the whole blues, and nothing but the blues. And
Here.
So it was pretty much just a straight up blues band that was really rooted in, you know, Chicago style blues from the 50s kind of on. And I think my dad actually started the Juvenators in Texas. Mm-hmm. And he started a band with some guys there, and they played for a few years, and then he moved back to Mississippi, and it's my understanding that he knew Bird. He's from Brookhaven, Mississippi, and moved back to Brookhaven, Mississippi. And Bird is from the other guitar player in the Juvenators is from Macomb, Mississippi. And Bird, I believe, so my dad was in bands in high school during the Beatles era, and his band was called the Brutes. And Bird was in a band, I believe, called the Hypnotics or Hypnotic. And they were sort of popular in their high school, group. And he knew about Bird, and I think that's when he sort of tried to begin to reform the band. And Bird was the first person that he sought out, and I think from that point he met Guy, and then George was brought in. He had written a lot of original music to sort of put material together to get the band going, and it was all based around the music that he wrote was very much influenced by people like T-Bone Walker and Freddie King and B.B. King and people like that. And the song that he's probably the most well known for is called 53 Buick. And he actually didn't write that song. He wrote a lot of other songs that he wrote a good bit of the, I think probably 2/3 of the songs that appeared on the first album, Golden Hearts. And then Bird wrote 3 of the songs that appeared on that album, but the closer and the song that the Juvenators would most of the time close the show with was a song called 53 Buick. And it was a song, I think, when he started to reform the Juvenators originally in Texas, there was a jam that was going on in at the town that he lived in, and he went there a couple weeks and was trying to sort of get his footing, musically. And I think the 3rd week that he went there, he closed the show out with that song, and he got a standing ovation. And that's sort of when the light went off that, hey, like I could turn this into something. And it kind of all just started from there. But by the time he was in Mississippi, and Guy, George, and Bird were involved, it was sort of a packaged thing that he put together, and they recorded the first album, all of their albums, at a studio in Monticello called Black Dog Records. It was, I think the recording studio was called Route 1 Recording, and it was a very cool studio that George can kind of speak to. I was a kid that, I was probably 12 or 13 years old, and I was around when they recorded those albums, but I didn't really know a lot of what was going on. But it was a very cool process to be in, and I think everybody involved was, it was a real special time, just with everything that was going on in the band at that time. There was a lot of energy and a lot of positive movement.
I think when people think about Monticello, Mississippi, they don't necessarily think there's a studio where people make magic there, but that can happen anywhere. It happens in the Delta, it happens in Jackson, it happens all over the state. Maybe George, talk about the studio a little bit. How did magic get made there?
Well, probably mostly had to do with Chris, the fellow that owned it. I actually had met him and done some work in the studio there before the Juvenators got together, before we went there to record our first record and stuff. And
let me pause for just a second. So Chris, his last name is Hudson, and he's the cousin to Carrie Hudson. Exactly. Of Blue Mountain, and I believe Chris was in a band in college where he played bass called the Hilltops with Carrie, and I'm not sure how he ended up starting a studio out of that, but he was from Monticello, and I think moved back after college and was just passionate about music, and that's how a studio had formed. And I think they had recorded a lot of Blue Mountains albums, and the studio was basically, it was a very, very cool vibe, very kind of much a homegrown thing, but it was just like surrounded by pine trees, and you could kind of get away from it all.
Woods.
They had bunk beds, and it was a loft set up. You could sleep there, and they had a kitchen, and it's a very cool place to go. And at the time, the story that my dad told me was that they had some birch trees that they had, I believe it was birch trees that they had cut down and planed and let dry out, and they wanted to install the birch wood on the ceiling of the studio. And he had done a lot of carpentry work over the course of his life, and he he traded studio time to install those pieces of birch wood on the roof of the studio, and that was sort of how his relationship got started there, and that's sort of how the guys got in there to record their first record, Golden Hearts.
How many albums? Go ahead, George.
Oh, well, I don't have a whole lot more to add to it, other than Chris Hudson wasn't just a musician, and he was also a chicken farmer.
I didn't know what you were going to say.
And he had
And he
like
was son of a bitch. I didn't know.
he had several chicken houses, and so that's what afforded him to build a really nice studio, which he did, of course, and put all that together.
Coming up, the Jackson music scene as it was. You're listening to the Blues and Arts Hour on 103.9 WYAB. You're listening to the Blues and Arts Hour on 103.9 WYAB, brought to you by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi and Small Town Music.
I got a 53 Buick, not painted some bitch green with a broom. I got a 53 Buick, now paint that some bitch green with a broom. Every time I go around the corner, I love to hear the motor go for room.
You may remember the central Mississippi music scene in the late 90s and early 2000s that made way for the advent of the Juvenators. Now members of the Re-Juvenators talk about the heyday of the band and the recording of their first album, Golden Hearts, which happened at a studio in Monticello. George Vance, Travis Brawley, and Chris Derrick. Were you guys recording on tape?
Yes, we were. DAT tape, I guess it would be.
ADAT, yeah, it was I think it was, you would call that digital tape. You know, it was an in-between kind of era between analog and digital.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is what Glenn Ballard recorded on, I guess, the videotape that you, the multi-track videotape that doubles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
So how many records did the Juvenators make in all?
3.
And I'm assuming these were sold at Bebop and places like that.
Yeah, we were on a compilation record that was recorded at one of the Jubilee Jams on one of the stages that we played one year. That we played there several years, but one year we played what was called the Congress Street stage, and so we were on a compilation record for Magnolia Hearing School. So anyway, we did 3 Juvenator records, and then we were on that one compilation. So
Was Mojo Burning? Was that
That's the third one.
Juvenator record?
that was the third one.
The second one was a live album called Live at the Mercury Room. First one was Golden Hearts.
Golden Hearts.
Right.
And Golden Hearts was really kind of the bulk of sort of my dad's sort of creative output from that era, and they had a few songs that he added that made their way into the live album, and then the third album was a combination of some new things he had written, some things that he hadn't recorded yet, and it was there was a house fire that happened, and he was really affected by that, and the album that's why it was called Mojo Burnin', and it was a sort of a product of that kind of time in his life.
Most of that came from that experience, probably.
And Chris, were you involved in any of the first run of the Juvenators at all?
I was in the blues scene with George and Guy and Bird. Well, yeah, I met Bird later, but
yeah.
Yeah, but definitely Virgil. That we like George. I met him at a blues jam. I got up to jam on a couple of songs, and I threw out, I think, Otis Rush's "All Your Love" and Peter Green tune. I think it was like "Stop Messing Around" or something. And I guess it went okay. And of course, you got to get on and get off stage. And I was trying to get all my stuff undone or whatever to get off the stage, and suddenly there's this big shadow over me. And I looked up, and there's this, and there was Virgil. He's taller than me, bigger than me, about 6'3", I guess, 265, I reckon. And I didn't know him from Adam's House Cat, and he had a way of kind of leaning in so he could see you when he was talking to you, and so he did that to me. Of course, I was just like, "Oh, don't hurt me." And he said, "Anybody tries to do Otis Rush and Peter Green at a blues jam, I got to shake your hand." and so and I was like, "Well, thank God he wants to shake my hand." But yeah, that's how I met him. And but as far as the recording of the albums, I guess it was more moral support on my part, I guess.
Chris also introduced Virgil to my stepmom, Ann, and I met Chris when I couldn't even play guitar. I was probably 13 or 14, and a really important place for the Juvenators was a place called Fields Cafe on Ferris Street. They had a jam there on Monday night called Blue Monday. That was a happening, I guess you could call it.
Oh yeah.
And that's sort of where a lot of people got educated in the blues and a lot of other things. But that, I believe, that's where I first met Chris. I don't know if that's where you and Dad first met, but
that's where I met Virgil. And
so Jackson had a really, really great jam scene in the late 90s and the early 2000s.
Big music scene. Yeah,
it was awesome.
It was just great to go to. You would learn a lot. You'd make really great friends. It was very accepting, not very cliquish. And at Fields, there would just be 300 or 400 people out into the street, when you got there, and they sold dollar beer out of a big like tub full of ice, like a horse trough.
And there's a garbage can too with juju.
Yeah, and there's a guy that was he was a Vietnam vet. He was an ex-Marine Vietnam vet, and my dad was a Vietnam vet too. And so him and Juju, this guy's name was, they got along real well. So I always had to beg my dad to take me to gigs, and especially Fields. I think he finally took me, because I would hear him talk about it, but he wouldn't. He'd never take me. And I finally begged him enough, and he took me on the condition that I would not tell my mom, because I was at his house for the summer.
Well, you were too young to be at places like that.
Way too young.
I was too young to be there. No, I'm kidding.
That was a big question that I had. How did you get in? How did that happen?
I was just Virgil's son. I don't know. Nobody ever, they just...
So, Travis, how old were you the first time you got up with us? Which would have been probably on that outside stage.
Fields was, they passed a law to where they could be open until 4 o'clock in the morning. And so that's when it really became kind of a hub for people to go to, and it got more popular, and they built a stage outside. I had got my dad, I had asked him to teach me how to play guitar, and he gave me a couple chords, and I had to bang around and figure that out for a long time. And I eventually learned how to play chords, and he got me up with him to play a few songs outside. I was probably 13 or 14.
That's what I was thinking, and I'm guessing that would have been during your summer break. You were visiting him.
Yeah, it would have been summer break or Christmas break. I lived in Texas, and I would come see Dad for Christmas and summers, because if it were outside, it was, and in the winter they would have had it inside. So yeah, it would have probably been the summertime.
Right.
And Chris, for reference, Fields Cafe is in the same place, same building as Frank Jones Corner.
Coming up, getting things going again on many levels. You're listening to the Blues and Arts Hour on 103.9 WYAB. You're listening to the Blues and Arts Hour on 103.9 WYAB, brought to you by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi and Small Town Music. Jackson's once vibrant blues jam scene has largely faded, as have some of the plans for bringing back some of the neighborhoods that gave venue to groups like the Juvenators. Now George Vance, Chris Derrick, and Travis Brawley, members of the Re-Juvenators, talk about the possibilities that still exist in places like Ferris Street. the big question is, are they ever going to get that area going again?
It's not.
They were talking about getting that going when Fields Cafe was there.
Yep.
They first put the plan together back in probably '98, and the way I understand it is the city put up $6 million to start the project of making Farish Street similar to Bourbon Street and Beale Street, of course, being right in between the two. The plan was to make it a music deal for tourists to visit and so forth and so on. And the city put up $6 million. Well, the state came behind them and added an additional $6 million for them to start the infrastructure, which they did start doing the infrastructure, but maybe even before they finished doing the infrastructure, the whole plan fell apart. The city of Jackson dropped the ball, and it never happened.
No, for real?
So obviously...
That sounds cynical, but for people who have been wanting to see Jackson come back in many ways, you see things like this happening over and over again.
Yeah,
I
don't mean to sound cynical about it, but I just saw it happen.
Speaking of things that that run their course, I have to ask now: what happened to the original Juvenators? How did that end up running its course?
Well, Dad, he moved. My stepmom retired. They went through a house fire in 2005. He and my stepmom had been taking vacations to the Ozark Mountains to a small town called Mountain View, Arkansas. And after she retired, they had bought a small cabin there, and he started to spend more time there and add on to it to make it more comfortable and more livable, and they eventually sort of added on to it to where it was sort of like a full-sized house, and they decided to retire there. Yeah, I think he made like 2 or 3 additions onto it, and that was sort of, I don't know if the Juvenators ever really broke up, but that was kind of the last gig in terms of.
And actually, it wasn't, because we actually did 2 or 3 gigs after they had moved to Arkansas. Mm-hmm. But it was just some of the stuff that we had been doing, festival things we had been doing, before he retired. So.
Yeah, I think they were mainly active for 16 years, and then he moved to Arkansas and met a bass player and drummer there, and he started a band there. And they recorded 1 album before he passed away in 2018. Yeah. But the Juvenators was something that was sort of part of him, and I don't know if he could have ever just never played music with these guys again.
Well, this all begs the question, what is the Re-Juvenators?
So we put the band back together 2 years ago. I mentioned that he was in a band in high school in the 60s called the Brutes. And the singer in that band, my dad played guitar and sang in the Juvenators, but he didn't really gravitate towards singing until I think he sang throughout life, but he didn't really kind of come into his own as a singer until probably his 40s. But the singer in the band that he was in high school started a festival in Brookhaven called Brookstock, and it's very much a homegrown, community-based, community-driven festival that's been going on now for over a decade. I'm not sure how many years now.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah,
I was going to say 20 years, maybe.
Probably, yeah.
But maybe longer than that.
So my dad would come home and play Brookstock every year, even after he lived in Arkansas, and he really looked forward to it. It was a way for him to kind of come back home and be around musicians that he respected and had known for a long time, and even newer musicians that he had developed relationships with, and it was just something that he really looked forward to. I actually played Brookstock with him one year when I still lived in Mississippi. And I lived in Mississippi for 6 years and went to college at Millsaps and played. That's when I played with the Juvenators many times over the course of that time, as well as when I would come to visit my dad. But after he passed away, we had a memorial for him. Arden Barnett was kind enough to let us have a memorial jam for him at what's the name? I'm drawing a blank. What's the name of his
Dueling
place?
Hall.
At Dueling Hall in Jackson. And we put together a bunch of different groups to play, sort of like a showcase throughout the whole night. And the Juvenators kicked the show. I think I played with his band from Arkansas. I got up and did a song with them. And then Chris did some one or two songs with Bird, George, and Guy, the original Juvenators. And it was just kind of like turning on a light switch. Like, it was like they were like hadn't played together in a while, but it was just like still locked in and kind of like right there. And it was just special. And
yeah, Ann came over and said, Chris, you need to do something with that.
Yeah, Ann's
took me a minute, but
Ann's my stepmom, and she's the person that Chris introduced to my dad.
Yeah, I've never done that before. I had never introduced somebody to get them married before. I've never done it before and never done it since. So I'm batting 1,000. I'm stopping.
Yeah. So that moment happened, and I kind of had wanted to put something together, but just, life turns into one day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. And I think it had been 5 years since he passed away, and I was in town to visit, and Brookstock was going on, and I decided to go down there on a whim. So I drove from Jackson to Brookhaven, and I saw some of his old friends, and it was like really great to see everybody. And they got me up to play a song, and they're like, you should come back next year. And sort of that started, that got me thinking about putting something together. And I think I talked to Chris Derrick about it, and he said that he would be into it. Chris plays with George and Guy regularly, so they were already doing some Juvenator songs, and I thought, well, I mean, I could learn a few songs. Chris could take what he's already doing with the Juvenators, and we could get Bird, and we could put together a show without a whole lot of work. We've all played this music hundreds and hundreds of times, so I asked Tyler Tyler Bridge, the person that organizes Brookstock, if I put the band together, if he would let us play, and he said yeah. So I asked everybody, and they said that they would do it, that they were into it. So
even my band, I wasn't an original Juvenator, but with my group, which at the time was called the Electric Company, then Blind Dog Otis, we did Juvenator songs because they were just great songs and they're fun to do, And so I guess we stayed up with, keeping all that alive, like Travis had said. We'd all on one hand or another, one way or another, kept playing those tunes.
Yeah, it all gravitates from Virgil.
Yeah, and I think
So
well, it's part of that is wanting to sort of honor the music, him and the music that they made. But it's also, we all love each other and love playing music with each other, and we want to do that, So it's
exactly,
it's that's kind of why we did it to begin with. And they asked us back last year. We did another gig last Christmas at Martin's in Jackson, and they asked us back to Brookstock this past summer. I wasn't able to be there, but they still performed it without me.
We went and did it without Travis. So.
Yeah, they don't need me, I guess. So
no,
baloney.
But
speaking of which, when Travis sings, he's got his own style, but sometimes And it's not always the same song, but sometimes he'll start singing, and like the hair will stand up on the back of my neck because he sounds so much like his dad. Well, he's not trying to, necessarily, but I mean, it's just sometimes he slips into that. So it's a wonderful thing.
Coming up, bringing back a festival that once was. You're listening to the Blues and Arts Hour on 103.9 WYAB. You've got the Blues and Arts Hour on 103.9 WYAB, brought to you by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi and Small Town Music. I'm Chris Davis, your host.
Won't bring you happiness like the beat of a heart or tender caress. Our love is like money.
A festival in South Mississippi may help to reintroduce the Juvenators, now the Re-Juvenators, to Mississippians who heard them back in the day and maybe some who have yet to hear them. That festival is Montipalooza. It was once a big draw and featured national acts. An effort to bring it back includes our friends George Vance, Travis Brawley, and Chris Derrick as performers. So a few weeks ago, I'm reading on Facebook and I'm reading about this festival. I didn't really know about this festival because it kind of started happening before I was a musician myself or before I was really paying attention to these things. And then I read that it's happening again. Are you guys playing Montipalooza?
Yeah, we are. We're playing Friday, December the 5th at 7 o'clock. And the Juvenators actually played the original festival, which I think went on for a few years, and the last year was, I think, 2003 or 4, but the Juvenators played in 2001. So I was contacted by the person organizing the festival, and they said, hey, the Juvenators played the festival in 2001, and he had an old newspaper article where it said, I think it was a review of the Juvenators playing the festival, and he asked me if
was it good or bad?
I don't know.
there's no bad press.
Yeah, exactly. So he asked if we would want to play the festival, and I asked the guys, and they said, yeah, absolutely. So we confirmed with them, and we're going to be opening up for Carrie Hudson, and we couldn't really be more excited to be there and be doing this.
It's kind of a rejuvenation all around, because you got the Re-Juvenators, but it's a rejuvenation of that festival, getting it back going after it being gone for a good long while.
Yeah, I think it's a really important thing for communities like that to do things like that, especially in that area. I'm not real familiar, with towns in southern Mississippi, but I'm not aware of a whole lot of music festivals going on. And I just think that there's a lot of great music that's come out of that part of the country, and it's really important to elevate that and honor that, and give people a place to come together to celebrate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, there's been a lot of Jackson and Central Mississippi music history discussed here today. I was thinking too, I could not find a lot of video footage. I was going back in preparation for this interview looking for video and saw a video of Jubilee Jam back in 1998. But, there's not a whole lot of video of the Juvenators that's out there and available.
Right.
Yeah.
What's going to happen? What's going to happen with the music scene in Jackson, do you think? And I'm not talking about just in Jackson, but in Central Mississippi, because it's not like it was. We talked about Jubilee Jam a little bit, and that was something people keep talking about they want to go back to. We want to have a festival, and then we had the folk festival, but that's bringing in a lot of acts from different places, and it's kind of a whole different thing. It's not, you don't have the same flavor of Jubilee Jam. Are we ever going to get back to that, something that looks like that era from the late 90s, early 2000s?
Man, I hope so.
I don't know that we will ever get back to what it was, but I think it will get better than it is now, simply because Jackson, the music scene in Jackson really went down when COVID started. And I don't mean to bring up COVID and all that mess, but that's when it really went down. And it's like Jackson just took a big hit. It's like all the good music clubs either shut down or changed, or just the whole thing in Jackson changed at that point. And I see it slowly kind of creeping back, but we just lost so many places in Jackson. So I don't know that it'll ever be back the same that it was. So
at the same time, I think something like this is a good sign. You know, so there's, who knows, but there are, you know, I wouldn't say that it's not without hope. I think
with the new mayor too, I think he seems very dedicated to trying to work stuff out with the state, and as well as taking care of the city itself. And they got a lot in front of them, but I think the attitude is right. And like Travis mentioned before, the blues jams and stuff to me were just a very caring, loving, supportive way for it. So you'd have to have something similar to that, maybe, you know, where, you know, young fellas could go in and just figure out how it works, like for real, you know,
learn
and learn from the ground up. I mean, you know, George and Travis and me and most of those fellas, I mean, you know, you can throw us into just about any musical situation. We can come up with something, you know, and so, you know, that being the case, I'd like to see that.
Wrong or right.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. And start together and together, right?
Yeah,
but you know, but you know, that having been said, I think that the atmosphere feels. Maybe this is what George was alluding to, but the atmosphere feels better to me right now, you know, so I'm very hopeful.
Yeah, I am too. I think it's coming back. I think it's going to come back somewhat, but who's to say whether it'll be back like it ever was, but
right, or
like it once was, I should say. But
well, I'm glad we can kind of end this panel discussion on an upswing here with some hope.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think we do need to take a minute to say thank you to Jessica for putting this whole kind of panel discussion together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica.
Yeah, Chris's wife has been great, and honestly, I don't know if, you know, she helped even from the beginning. After my dad passed, she was real instrumental in helping organize, you know, everything that for the memorial and for the jam, and she's been real supportive since day one. So, you know, we're real thankful that we have her in our corner. You know,
the Blues and Arts Hour every Friday morning at 9 right here on 103.9 WYAB, brought to you by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi and Small Town Music. See you next Friday. I'm Chris Davis.